BLUEPOINT Games have made their name modernizing some of PlayStation's greatest ever titles, having great success with the likes of the Shadow of the Colossus remake and remastering the original Uncharted trilogy, and now the team has their sights on Demon's Souls. Or is that Demon's Souls? It's Demon's Souls! The scintillating announcement during the PS5 reveal event worked well to whet the appetite of Soulsborne's fervent fans around the world, with the trailer giving only a glimpse of what is to come. But what was the focus of this teaser? The bosses, of course, arguably the driving mechanic of the entire Souls experience. They lead the main narrative, comprise the bulk of the overall challenge, and work as a conduit to connect the game's key areas, provided you can beat them, of course. So, with the PlayStation exclusive confirmed to be on its way in the not-too-distant future, newer Souls fans that missed out on Demon's Souls will finally get to see the franchise's niche beginnings, and with some shiny next-gen graphics to boot. Just before we get onto the list though, spoilers. Many spoilers. This list covers a considerable chunk of Demon's Souls and, due to its very subject, arguably the best parts of the game, so don't say we didn't warn you! I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 Demon's Souls PS5 Remake bosses we can't wait to fight. Number 10. Dragon God. The very definition of trailer fodder, the Dragon God has been at the front and center of Demon's Souls advertising since the very beginning, and you can see why. From its intimidating size to the soul-piercing roar, Dragon God is a spectacle to behold, and alright, yes, the boss was actually the worst one in the game, and yes, it was just a glorified set piece that primarily focused on hitting rubble and lightly caressing a ballista to activate it, but just look at the size of it, it's amazing! Dragon God would make for a true show of what the PlayStation 5 can do, pushing the console's graphics and audio capabilities from the get-go. FromSoft have always liked the idea of colossal bosses. They started the trend with Demon's Souls' Dragon God and haven't wavered since, including more showcase spectacles in their later outings, with Dark Souls 3's Carthus Sandworm being a prime example, as well as Dark Souls 1's Ceaseless Discharge. It's just such a horrible name. Number 9. Vanguard. If you were to ask me to describe the Souls formula in a word, it would be Vanguard. This was the tutorial. The tutorial! Vanguard can comfortably decimate you in 1 or 2 hits. It also has a rather large pool of health, making this fight less of a difficulty slope and more of a vertical wall. If this doesn't set you up for what's to come, nothing will. You do actually face Vanguard for real later in the game, but by this point you are appropriately leveled enough and have enough of a grasp of the game that it can hardly be considered a challenge. While Souls veterans of today would consider Vanguard relatively tame, you have to take into account that this was the first of its kind, if you forget about Kingsfield that is, so it meant that players in 2009 were going in relatively blind to the concept of a Souls game. It's also what makes the idea of facing Vanguard in the remake so intriguing, if anything, just to see how well it holds up against the more modern outings and pro players. So think of Vanguard as not only the first true test for the player, but as a benchmark for the series as a whole. Number 8. Armor Spider. Arachnophobes beware, the Armor Spider is coming. Ooh, oh god. The dark, cramped entranceway, its presence that fills most of the room, the fact it can hit you from just about anywhere, those eyes! A picture of Armor Spider could replace the definition of horror in the dictionary, and I'd still understand the meaning. The battle itself could be seen more as an exercise in frustration than an exciting duel. Hard to dodge projectiles and erratic attacks are aplenty, but with a bit of patience you'll be able to hack and slash your way to victory. With a complete overhaul in the remake, the fear of this confrontation should be taken up to a whole new level. Demon's Souls itself went all out with its themes of dread, its body horror and forbidding tones being amongst the series' most prevalent until Bloodborne came along, of course, but is there anything truly scarier than those 8-legged terrors? I shudder at the thought. Number 7. Maneater. Is facing multiple bosses at once on a narrow platform that you could be easily knocked off your favourite part of the Souls series? If you answered, yes they are, my very nature as a habitual masochist makes me crave them, then you're in luck, my friend. This is where the trend began. The granddaddy of frustration known as Maneater caught many a naive player off guard. They appear fairly early into the game and will be comfortably your biggest challenge up to that point, Vanguard aside of course. Due to this difficulty curve, most players won't have quite mastered the core mechanics enough to effectively deal with the pair. You initially only have the one to handle, easing you in with a false sense of security, but if you fail to smite down this singular foe quickly enough, then the second arrives, making it a challenge just to keep your bearings. You could go as far as to say that the gargoyle has become a trope in the games following Demon's Souls, but I, for one, would rather see it as a testament to the design of the original. I very much look forward to facing Maneater again, just as long as they improve the flying animation, that is. Number 6. Tower Knight. Walking through the fog gate and into the courtyard of the Tower Knight is both an awe-inspiring and daunting experience. The armor-clad Goliath's entrance alone is enough to dampen the spirits of any eager soul, and even if you do manage to shake off that initial dread, you quickly come to notice the Tower Knight's troop of archers perched on the surrounding walls, at which point you might as well concede and return to the piece of shaking trees in Animal Crossing. From the sheer scale of the gargantuan guard, you'd assume the Tower Knight would appear quite late in the game, but alas, this titan is one of the first few bosses you'll come across. The battle plays out more along the lines of a puzzle rather than a straight-up fight, but thankfully it's one better crafted than Dark Souls 1's much maligned Bed of Chaos. It'll take more cunning than brute force to fell the Tower Knight, and as such is a real testament to the complexity of the FromSoft formula even at this early stage. Number 5. Storm King. If you were to conjure an image of the Storm King by name alone, your mind would probably venture to Dark Souls 3's Nameless King before you landed on, well, a giant flying manta ray? But don't be despondent, my friends, because that description really doesn't do this sheer spectacle justice. Even by the mere 2 seconds of video shown in the announcement trailer, you can get a good idea for how incredible this battle is going to be. Demon's Souls is one of the few games to master scale, and the Storm King is a testament to this, evoking memories of Shadow of the Colossus with how grand it really is. Even the weapon that's intended to be used in the battle is an exercise in pageantry. Wielding the mighty Storm Ruler and using it to bend the power of nature to your very will is the kind of power fantasy that gaming as a whole is built upon. They even brought it back for the battle with Yhorm the Giant in Dark Souls 3, another theatrical confrontation with a behemoth. Number 4. Old King Allant. Old King Allant is more commonly known as the False King due to the real Allant actually being this thing who truly looks less like a king and more like you after stubbornly reattempting the Vanguard fight at Soul Level 1. The Old King is also considered to be the true last boss in the game, as he is the final challenging adversary you'll come across on your adventure, and what a battle it is. Not only does Old King Allant come at you with a flurry of fast strikes, but he also possesses a grab attack that takes away one of your soul levels every time you are caught by it, a move that by itself can render your careful battle plan entirely moot. A remake of Demon's Souls could help give the False King the fluidity and clarity that was always intended for the character, resembling more a blend between the Soul of Cinder and Sir Elon boss fights. With a touch of modernization, Old King Allant could go from one of to perhaps the best final Soulsborne boss. Number 3. Old Hero. The Old Hero is without doubt one of the most unique bosses FromSoft has ever made. A sightless warrior wielding a mighty blade, the Old Hero will blindly feel his way around the room searching for the intruder, that being you. This elegant mechanic makes you totally change up your playstyle and, much like the Tower Knight, use your cunning rather than your aggression. It'd be difficult to go into this battle without feeling some sense of pity. He is, after all, completely blind and just trying to do the bidding of the Old One, making this not only an excellent battle technically, but also having an emotional undertone. There's a real tension when it comes to the battle with the Old Hero, hiding behind pillars and sneaking around, hoping he doesn't hear you. It's what makes this fight so unique. Many horror games have tried to replicate this tiptoeing, but what makes the Old Hero stand out is that he doesn't follow a predetermined script like the beginning of The Evil Within, for example, but rather the fight plays out organically. Admittedly, it all tends to devolve into a bit of a slugfest, especially if you have co-op help, but with the right amount of attentiveness and a carefully constructed score, the remake has a chance to make an already memorable battle truly unforgettable. Number 2. Flamelurker. Many consider the Flamelurker to be the hardest boss in the game. Its constant, unrelenting strikes, repeated area of effect attacks, and domineering presence combine to make a hefty challenge, one that any player worth their salt would relish. That is, unless you hide behind this bit of spine. We had a sneak peek at Flamelurker in the announcement trailer, and by the looks of things it will be as intimidating as ever. With the capabilities of the next generation consoles, we can look forward to effects and lighting from the titular flames of the Lurker in all their splendour. It'll even go to show how far the series has come along, primarily by how difficult the Flamelurker will end up being. In a franchise built on crippling difficulty, it'll be fascinating to see if Demon's Souls will be as much of a challenge now as it was back at its initial release. Flamelurker can stand proudly then as a beacon to the future, as being the hardest boss in the first Souls game surely makes it ahead of its time. I look forward to meeting Flamelurker again in the remake so I can really give it a piece of my mind. Look here, you knockoff Balrog, I'll not be bested this time. It's killed me. Number 1. Maiden Astraea. The story of the Maiden Astraea is heartbreaking. Once a saint, Astraea searched out the Valley of Defilement to help the poor outcasts who were abandoned there, only to be corrupted by evil herself. Upon meeting Astraea, you realise that she doesn't want to fight you, instead asking you to leave her sanctuary for demons in peace. Upon choosing to confront Astraea, you have to go through her loyal knight Garl Vinland first. Manage this and you'll meet the maiden face to face. She will still refuse to fight you, instead giving up her demon soul as the loss of Garl and the now insurmountable odds proved too much.
Dear Lord, you are too cruel.
No, I'm not crying. It's demon allergies. I've got demon allergies. The Souls series is renowned for its deep lore and emotional themes, but the battle with Maiden Astraea may be amongst the franchise's most important. The battle plays out in such a poignant, cinematic way. The pleading voice of Astraea follows you as you trudge your way down into the plague pit. The accompanying score is some of the best not just in Demon's Souls, but the series as a whole, and as such the overall tone is simply pitch perfect. You could quite easily go and play the original PS3 release of Demon's Souls and still feel just as much impact as a remake could give. But what's so special about there actually being a remake is that it brings moments such as this to an entirely new audience. It'd be difficult to argue with the Maiden Astraea battle being one of the franchise's most powerful moments. Not only is it the most emotional scene in Demon's Souls, but considering it's the franchise's first outing, the battle with Maiden Astraea lays the foundations for the themes that the series continued to follow, which is always worth remembering. And that's that! Our 10 Demon's Souls remake bosses we can't wait to fight, but more importantly, we want to hear from you. Which bosses are you most looking forward to seeing in the Demon's Souls remake? Let us know in the comments below. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and while you're at it, why not support the things you enjoy by having a look at our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.